we already have two sessions before this. It was about security and healthcare sector. Today we are going to have the session on industrial IoT. It's very fascinating why we are conducting this entire event, because we wanted to get connected with the technology, the horizon where the technology is going and how it is going to create a difference to the entire digital strategy or digital footprint of Indonesia. So we want to contribute a little bit, and we have invited our panelists, our speakers from Cisco, and thank you Cisco and Google for attending and giving your insight about what is all about industrial IoT. Now IoT itself is you must be hearing, there are a lot of people talking about Internet of Things, IoT, and lot of hype is around it. If we look into the analyst predictions, in 2023 there is going to be 14.5 billion new devices which will be connected worldwide, and by 2025 the numbers will increase to 27 billion. That means it is a growing trend. People are going for IoT, people are understanding the need of IoT, and if you see from the revenue point of view, it's an industry of 222 billion US dollar only for industrial IoT I am talking about. So there is a lot of potential why people are going for it, and all the panelists will talk about it, and we will be happy to answer if you have any questions around it. See, IoT, industrial IoT, what benefit it will bring, that is what we have to see. What value it will create in industry, how it will increase the throughput, how you can increase your productivity, how you can do things faster, better. That is what I think these gentlemen will talk about it. There are a lot of technological things which is happening around the world. See, initially IoT was all about M2M, machine to machine. Then the trend is changing. Now we are talking about 5G, 4G. Now when we talk about 5G, 4G means we are talking about better connectivity. When we talk about better connectivity, it gives us the opportunity to look what we can flow in that connectivity layer, how we can bring better sensors, how we can do more automation, how we can do AI and ML. So this is about robotics, and automation is all about how you gather the information, which I think Google is more expert on this, and then how we can make use of that meaningful analytics. Correct? So this is what I think you guys will be able to understand in this session, and takeaways you will take it, and how you can be part of this journey of IoT, how you can make your own enterprise successful, reducing cost and doing things in a more faster and agile way, and improve in your growth of the company. So this is what I believe this session is all about, and I once again thank you our enterprise team members also, B2B team, who will also be demonstrating and talking about certain business cases. And thank you once again Mr. Yoga and the team, Mr. Patrick, for having this session arranged. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Sanjeev, for remarkable question. Today we will deliver some presentation that perhaps overcome what we have obstacle in our vertical industry for what kind of painful are you facing right now. We will look for your feedback later on, while our presenter guest speaker will deliver. Come with me. The first speaker, Mr. Patrick O'Brien Graham. Come with me, sir.
Am I turned on here?
Yeah.
Everyone, thank you very much for coming today. Really appreciate it. Sanjeev, thanks for the introduction. Again, I would like to thank Cisco and Google for participating in this. And more importantly, I would thank all of the customers that are here. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Pat Graham. You don't have to call me Patrick O'Brien Graham. Only my mother does that. So, what is IoT? It's an interesting one because I had a scenario earlier today. I was in a meeting and my phone was going crazy. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And finally, normally I just ignore it. But after so many times of my phone going off, I picked it up and I looked. And our colleagues here from G4S will appreciate this. It was my home alarm system in the United Kingdom telling me that the alarm was going off. And the next thing I get is a text message from my wife saying, how do I turn this bloody thing off? So it's very real and it's very near and dear to us. How many of you have an alarm system in your house? One? Wow. And is it connected, Brian? Is your alarm? So there you go. That is an IoT device. I'll take a step back in time a little bit. What actually is IoT? IoT is the connected world we live in. Okay. I'll not go into great detail. I'll leave that to the experts from Cisco to actually do that. But for many, many years, this has actually been going on. It's not something new. Back in 2000, again, Sanjeev touched on it, machine to machine, and particularly in the telco world, was quite big. And as we progress, the maturity level of devices, of protocols, has also moved on. Sorry, I got to do my clickers here. Thank you. And so as we progress, like I said, the world of IoT has actually moved on. I'll give a few statistics that are actually really relevant to this world today. In the UK, they kicked off a public-private partnership to connect 60 million homes, okay, with smart meters. That was a public-private partnership between a private company, some of the industry-leading energy providers, water, gas. And it was mandated in every new household that you get a smart meter. So they actually set up a company that is doing exactly that. They're rolling out smart meters to every home. If you think of that, 60 million, just alone in the UK, that's 60 million devices with connectivity to their house, to a smart meter that tells you you're optimizing your electricity, all of those other things. So that's really important. And I think when I look at the Southeast Asia market, I think this is very relevant to where you are today. The world is trying to become more sustainable. So all of these things, all of these activities are absolutely key. So what does it take? What does it take to do all of this? You obviously need a device at the end of that. You need a communication path. You need a way to manage and monitor those devices. But more importantly, you need a market. I think there's 279 million people in Indonesia. Quite well advanced in terms of your actual infrastructure at this point, and it's getting better every day. So that creates a market for all of you, for all of your businesses. on a B2B and a B2B2C world of connectivity. So as we progress, you know, there's mechanical engineering, industrial. Anyone here from a manufacturing area? No? Okay. So we got one? See, nobody wants to ever raise their hand, do they? So what industry is that? Food. Okay, food manufacturing. That's a really good example. And yourself? Okay. So as you're looking at this, there's the opportunity to streamline everything you do, whether you know from the sourcing of things all the way through pick, pack, and ship, and all of that, and how you manage and monitor that. Are you actually applying any IoT in your environments today? Good. And what have you? Sorry, I'm having a bit of a dialogue here. And what are you finding?
Do you have the registration list? Do you have the registration list?
A typical factory
I just want
that usually manned by 150 personnel can now be manned by only 25 personnel, but the production is double.
I think that's a beautiful use case for IoT. It's a real testament to where the market is and where it's going. Probably and what is the connectivity, the back-end connectivity? What are you using for that?
It's all fiber optic.
Okay. So there you go. It's all fiber. Not looking at 5G yet. As we roll out 5G, that's going to create another huge opportunity for expansion, but also expansion into areas where there isn't a lot of connectivity today.
Well, that's actually why I came here. I would like to hear what Ooredoo have solutioning for that, other than the usual fiber optic backbones. 5G, yes, but 5G is a little bit problematic, especially in a remote area. So that's why I came here. I would like to hear more.
Very, very good. And these guys, that's the very ruggedly handsome gentleman over there standing up will be.
I took out my suit only for this occasion, right? So don't worry,
he'll be talking about that. Some of the other things, automotives, connected cars. In Europe, they've mandated that originally it was mandated by 2025 that all new cars being produced had to be connected, had to be manageable. They've now pushed that back. The automotive market wasn't really ready to do that, so they've pushed that back to 2030. But by 2030, all new cars in Europe will have an IoT connectivity to them. They're also looking at mandating that all of the older cars be retrofitted with a device in order to have so that they are managed as well. So there are really heavy drivers on some of this kind of stuff, on how we look forward. And again, a lot of that's going to be based on connectivity. So obviously with cars and machinery and farm equipment, they're not connected. So it's having that connected path.
Next, please.
Thank you. That's good. So, as you do all of this connectivity, what's really important is I guess you have to ask yourself the question: so what? What does this actually mean? There's all this data flowing through, and where does it go? How does it get processed? How do you use it? And that's going to be key to optimize. I love your case where you've been able to. You're actually able to increase your production and reduce the overheads and everything else. That's what this is about, and I think that there's a real testament to that. The bigger problem we have across the piece, though, and in your case, it's not necessarily true, but the actual calculating the return on investment of that and of that connected world is actually quite difficult. You're moving, sometimes you're using existing connectivity, you're using existing technologies to do that. So calculating that ROI is actually really important. And the final point on this is it's very domain specific. If you're actually using 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 different vendors to do that end connectivity, to do that end device and that device management, now all of a sudden you've got an integration problem. So one of the things is where you benefit from is actually having common standards, common goals, common protocols that allow you to connect across the piece. Thank you. A couple of things we'll talk about now is actually, and I'll kind of push through this one because it does talk about 5G, but smart machines, smart analysis. I think that's really key, and Google are really moving into this space heavily on the analytics side. Obviously, one of our partners today, they're actually very heavy. They're an industry leader in the online analytics, getting some of those smart services. Anyone here from the from like transport? No. So smart services, smart cities, being able to have that smart technology that allows you to operate, whether it's a bus line, train line, airplanes, whatever. Even if you think about it, they're actually using smart technology and IoT in the airports, track baggage and things like that. And what does that do? That actually creates value. Go on. I'm not going to touch on 5G. All right. So some of the challenges and quick wins with IoT. You've got a very large percentage of unplanned downtime, poor on-time delivery. Again, this would be really key to some of you in the logistics world. Product defects, and again, difficulty calculating the ROI. Some of us have a better opportunity, and it's more tangible. But as we progress through this, there will be more frameworks, and more common methodologies for actually doing those frameworks. Couple key pieces on this is your asset utilization and consumption. I think when you're looking at a manufacturing line, it's again, what is the consumption? What is my throughput? What is the ability to manage and monitor that throughput on an assembly line, for example, is absolutely key. Cycle time, being able to create downtime, all of these are absolutely key. And the one for me that's important here is the product improvements. So if you're able to monitor things real time in a much better way, it does allow you to improve the quality of your products across the piece. 5G. I believe. Keep going. Digital twin. These are the use. Here's the slide I was looking for. Sorry about that, guys. So currently, there's 5 billion connected people around the world. I think that number is actually higher than that now, particularly as we roll out wider networks. The IoT world, $2 trillion in revenue opportunity around this, which actually opens up all of your markets quite considerably. 30+ million apps. Each of you, as you roll out devices and you roll out that connectivity, you roll out the wider IoT ecosystem. You're going to have lots and lots of apps. Again, there's 30 million. There's 15 billion embedded intelligent systems out there. What does that mean? All of the devices, again, as I was saying with my home alarm this morning, that's actually a perfect example of a connected device. I've got cameras at my house. I've got an alarm system. And all of that is connected, and those are all IoT devices. And really, the last one is, the last point here, is the amount of data that this generates. Being able to take that data, harness it,
Gray-haired guy and the guy next to him, they're from Cisco.
and potentially monetize. I won't say you will monetize it, but potentially monetize that is absolutely critical. You've got it. You may as well use it and create value out of it, whether that's to streamline your business or
I forgot
actually
about
sell that to someone else, so that you can make use of that. Couple different components on this. The different layers of an IoT platform. You've got your underlying hardware, obviously, your middleware, and that's the actual IoT platform, the connectivity that actually brings it all together, and that is your central hub. And then the applications that sit across the top of that, how you manage and monitor it. It's great to put devices out there, but you need to be able to do something with it. If they're just passive devices, it brings no use. So being able to drive forward with that is absolutely critical, and that's where that application layer allows you to interact with those devices. Sorry, I'm moving to the other side. I'm in the way of the screen. I'm a better door than I am a window. So this is absolutely key on the when you start looking at IoT, and really that looking at those platforms, I'll leave it to the experts with Deepak and with the Cisco team to take you through in more detail. But is there Yoga?
Yep. Thanks, Pat. Please remain on the seat on stage with me as well. Because there will be some kind of panel. So, thanks. The second speaker, Pak Deepak, the stage yours, Pak.
Hello, is this mic working? Yeah? All right, thanks. No, I think the mics, can you all hear me clearly? Yeah? All right, thank you. I'm just waiting for this. So look, my name is Deepak Pandey. I'm responsible for setting up the IoT practice in IOH. I think some of you gentlemen here had a question about what do we do in IoT, and I'm going to answer that question if I can. But before that, by the way, I'm in this country only for like 90 days. My knowledge of Bhasha is very limited, but I recognize this is a holy month for you, and I've been told happy fasting, and what do you say, salamat berpuasa. So happy fasting to all of you. What I'm going to talk about today is what we are doing in IoT, how does IOH work, how we're progressing, and I'm a bit focused on the manufacturing sector. The reason why I'm focused on the manufacturing sector here right now in this presentation is because I think this is one of the sectors that is very important to Indonesia, of course, but more importantly, I think it is also a sector that allows us to show the entire bouquet of the kind of IoT products that we can offer and develop, right? Can we have the next slide, please? Sorry about these lights. I think you can't see the slides very clearly. We're trying to fix it, but until then, this is what we have. So, look, I think the pandemic has taught many of us a lot of things, and one of the clear things the pandemic has taught us is the fact that we all have to go digital. And for the manufacturing sector, and really coming out of the pandemic for the manufacturing sector, 2023 is going to be really the time when I think manufacturing sector will have to take a bold step forward into digitalization. It's not only in Indonesia, I think it's all over the world. I think clearly the last 2-3 years have made us take this drastic step. Can we move on? Okay, this is very hazy, but here is where I just want to introduce IOH to all of you. You're all familiar with Indosat. IOH is Indosat in the new avatar. Really, it's Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison. I think what we bring together are three things. One is we bring, of course, the legacy and the pedigree and everything else that you can talk about Indosat, which has been here for many, many years, a brand familiar to all of you. So we are clearly experienced. We have been in this market for a long time. The difference between Indosat and IOH is that actually we also bring together a network of partners. So behind us we have a lot of strategic partnerships. You are seeing one here with Cisco today. They are going to talk a little bit about it. There's also somebody from Google who's going to come and talk a little bit later. So these are some of the strategic partnerships that we bring. There's also Tech Mahindra, who was they have a desk outside, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as I get along. But really, we bring together a set of an expertise that did not exist before, and that expertise is really in the area beyond telecoms. It's in the area of technology. It's in the area of many things, like IoT as an example for now. And the other thing that we bring together is we are a one-stop shop. So when we go to a company, we talk to them about the kind of solutions we can offer, and I'll give you an example of some of them. We provide the solution, we discuss with them the roadmap to the destination, and we then implement it in their organization, and we help them manage it as well. So we are a one-stop shop. The buck stops with us. You don't have to deal with multiple people. You don't have to deal with different kinds of vendors or suppliers or partners. You just deal with one company, and that is IOH. So that's really what we bring to the table. Can we go ahead, please? Yeah, thanks. Okay, look, I really apologize for this hazy output. Like I said, I've been here now about 90 days. I have met many companies. Like I said, this is focused a bit on the manufacturing sector. So I've met many companies. I have asked them what are the kind of problems that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Here's an example of some of the problems we deal with. I think the good news is that all these problems are not unusual, and typically countries that are on the industrialization index that Indonesia is at, I mean, these are typical kind of problems. I mean, there are some, very larger, let's say, large problems like the kind that says lack of a qualified workforce. Now I'm not going to address those kind of things, but really I'm going to focus on things like how can we have, manual RCA, for example, unplanned downtime. How can we manage some of that a bit better? Can we move on? So if you look at manufacturing, and here is where I think we start getting into what is it that IOH can do, or what is it that we can help in the area of manufacturing. I think the key thing is that all manufacturing companies are generating a lot of data. The data is real-time data, it's available, but are we really using that data? And I think that is the question. If you can use that data in a productive manner, I think that is where the opportunity lies for all of us. As an example, I'll just take an example of something called a digital twin. I'm sure you're all familiar with digital twins. So, you have exact replica of a particular manufacturing process. Now that allows you in real time to simulate what is going on, to understand how to make changes, to understand the impact of those changes, and so on and so forth. So these are just examples of how, if you're able to harness data in real time, and if you're able to use that data for analysis, and then for some kind of let's say execution on the shop floor itself, I think that is a real value that can be created. There are many examples here. I mean, the most common example is that of predictive maintenance. I think that is maintaining equipment, maintaining tools, maintaining processes on the shop floor. I think that is the single largest example of benefit that a company can have from IoT. Right? Let's go on. So this is how we work typically. I think, or rather, this is how more than us working, I think this is also how a typical company's progression in the whole digital space begins and continues, right? The first step is really visualization, and we'll talk about some products that we have there. Visualization is really the ability to visualize the data in real time, and hence that gives you the ability to make better decisions because you're able to visualize the data in real time. And from there you can go all the way up. You can get into predictive maintenance, you can get into further quality monitoring, and so on and so forth. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can actually be, what is called a symbiotic, which is really, make that as a part of your process and evolve the process as it goes forward. A lot of companies today really are at the visualization stage, and I think that is the stage one, where I'm just able to get all the data from the shop floor and see it in one dashboard, or in sort of one pane of glass, as you say, right? So just able to see that data and then understand what is happening on my shop floor by looking at that data. And I think that's the first step. Let's move on, please. So here's an example of the first step of what we call as visualization, right? And now if you look at any shop floor, there are three levels, and we play at all three levels. The first level is the OT layer, the actual operations technology that which consists of all the machines and so on and so forth. Now, in some situations, you have all the machines. If it's a new factory, for example, you might buy all the machines from one manufacturer, in which case you have, is that much better? Yeah, this is a bit better, I think. So you have better integration across all the machines. You have, let's say, a common visualization across all the machines. But many of the factories are legacy factories, right? You have built up the automation over a period of time. So you're literally operating with different machine manufacturing and different processes at different places. And that is where I think a monitoring product, like the kind of product that we have, allows you to get the data from each of these disaggregated machine clusters, for example, and bring it together into one dashboard and allow you to visualize that. The second layer on top of this really is what we're calling as the network layer. And not only manufacturing, but even larger facilities like mining, for example. There are private networks that can work there. 5G coming in tomorrow can add a lot of that to that. Or even if you have, and that's where Cisco has a role to play as well. I mean, they have ruggedized routers. You create a private network on top of the OT layer, which brings us really to the third layer, which is the IT layer, which is where IoT traditionally sits. And that is where you have the various kinds of the sensors sending up data all the way to the IT layer, and that's where the algorithms, and I think somebody talked about ML and AI, and I think that's where all of that really works to bring back, let's say, action back into the OT layer at that point in time. So that's the kind of a solution. We work with partners. We have a blueprint where we can look at, and that's the assessment that we typically like to do. So the way we like to work is we will come to your factory, we will go through an assessment process in your factory, we will try and understand at what stage of digitalization are you in, what is it that works best for you. We have blueprints at different stages of these digitalization stages, and we would then like to work with you to understand how can we execute the right solution for your current need. So that's an example of the one type of a solution. Can we move on, please? I'm not getting into each of these applications because the applications really depends on the function of what your factory requires. I mean, I was looking at registration risks. I realized somebody here is from the soft drink industry. Is somebody here from Coca-Cola? Yeah, you're from Coca-Cola? Yeah, well, I'll tell you a very interesting story about Coca-Cola and another country, okay? And this is an example of how many of I used to work in the soft drink industry, by the way, many years ago. I used to work for, I shall not name the company, a competitor of yours. So I mean, some of these plants are in remote locations, right? They're small factories, they're small plants, they're in remote locations. And today, I don't know how it is in Indonesia, but in many other countries, the summer is really the peak season, right? And that's the time when everybody's trying to manufacture as much as you can and so on. So even one day of downtime of the factory because of the equipment going wrong is a huge loss in terms of the sheer amount of money that you're missing out on. Coca-Cola in another country, they implemented like a AR/VR kind of a solution where using basically there was an opportunity for, so if something does go wrong in the factory, the factories are very simple. They're not very complicated factories, right? They basically, it's a conveyor belt where you're putting in liquid into a bottle. Fundamentally, it's not very complicated manufacturing. But if something does go wrong, you have an ability to, you can actually see, there could be a remote person, who's able to guide somebody on the spot and be able to sort of rectify that in less than a couple of hours. Versus if somebody had to physically travel to that factory, it might have taken 8, 9, 10 hours to reach the factory, fix the problem, and so on and so forth. So that's an example of how, let's say, IoT or technology of this kind can actually make a difference in real life. And I've seen this happen in many places. But going beyond simple OEE or simple visualization, there are many things that can be done. Right? There are, process industry. I mean, condition monitoring is a very standard example of what everybody uses. It's the best used and best known example. The ability to monitor different kinds of situations. Ability to monitor your boiler, ability to monitor your whatever else, your condenser units or whatever else, ability to monitor any of those. Energy monitoring, these are very basic, well-used cases. By just monitoring your energy, you can demonstrate pretty high efficiencies in terms of costs. We don't realize it, but a lot of us are wasting energy all the time. Like even in this room, for example, do we need so many lights? And just by monitoring it, measuring it, analyzing it, and then acting on that information, you can save a large amount of dollars by using that kind of information, right? But these are the kind of things that we do. Like I said, our way of working is typically coming in, assessing the situation, understanding where you are on that journey, looking at going back to our, let's say our thinking process, our drawing board, and coming back and suggesting to you a set of solutions and a roadmap towards a point where you will feel comfortable in terms of being fully digital, right? So that's how we work. There is I think we have a person from one of our partners sitting outside. If you would like, please do go and visit that particular desk, and they will tell you about the framework that we use for assessment of this kind, and we are happy to sort of come by to your places and actually do that assessment and then sort of work with you, and if required, if you need to do a POC, we are happy to do that as well as we go forward. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I think there's one slide more or something, and then I'm open for any questions. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Look, I do believe the manufacturing and mining and a few other industries. I know there are a lot of you here from G4S. There's a lot of work that we're doing with G4S, and I think creating just a security portfolio and creating a digital security portfolio is such a valuable thing. Just before this, by the way, I was talking to a sort of a video analytics company based out of based out of Russia, and they were looking at seeing how can we actually bring in some of the solutions into this country. So definitely there is a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of things that we can do together. I've tried to give you in a very short time a glimpse of the kind of work we can do together, but open to questions, anything anybody wants to ask or any comments anybody has, happy to hear it.
My name is Yuang. I came from mining and manufacturing background. Yoga here is, we came from same previous company. So yeah, I think I trained him a bit. Anyway, so this is interesting. The deck that Pandey just showed is new. These are new. Indosat released the smart manufacturing marketing campaign back in 2020. But as I personally observed 2021, 2022, there's not so much growth. So compared to the information at Indosat website, official website on smart manufacturing, your material is new. That's what I'm interested. My question here is that still not a clear path. What I observe here is still not a clear path, especially towards digital twin. So a week or 2 weeks ago, BMW just released their first digital twin. Okay, and it enables BMW to really improve their production line and very much early on failure detection. So I would like to hear from the Indosat guys over here, both of you gentlemen, what will be Indosat Ooredoo role in Indonesia to enable Indonesian manufacturing industry towards digital twin? Because I haven't seen any in those slides from both of you. You mentioned about blueprint, but I'm not really sure whether it's a blueprint for phases on digital transformation in manufacturing or blueprint for vertical industry. Because, just wait. Because I would really like to hear whether Indosat or even perhaps Ooredoo have a blueprint, not just for digitalization, but towards digital twin, because industrial IoT, analytics IoT, and then on top of it are digital twin. Whether there is actually a blueprint for, I'm currently interested on a cement manufacturing, which is very strong in India. Very strong in India.
So,
okay. So there's actually two questions. What is Indosat or Ooredoo plan for Indonesian market towards digital twin, and how Indosat will enable Indonesian manufacturing industry towards that? And second is whether there is actually a blueprint for this is very specific, cement industry, which is very popular in India. Digitalization on cement factory in India is very, very progressive. So that's my two question.
Sure. Let me try and answer that. So I think the first thing you asked about digital twins very specifically. So I did talk about digital twins on my second slide. I just picked on digital twins because it is a well-known terminology amongst a lot of people, but that's the reason I picked on it. With one of our partners, we do have the technology to implement a digital twin. However, it's really a function of whether it's the right thing for that organization at that point in time, or is it, or does the organization even want to spend the money to be able to execute that and get the benefits out of that. So we are fully equipped to.
It is exactly the question. So I would really like to hear directly from Indosat guys, from Ooredoo guys, because digital twin is not really a connectivity solution. It is really it's very heavy on computing power. It's very heavy on analytics and machine learning function. So what will be Indosat positioning in Indonesia towards that? Because it's not only connectivity.
So
right?
The business that I do has got nothing to do with connectivity, by the way. So the business that I do, I am responsible for the IoT practice. I am not responsible for connectivity. I do not sell, nothing that I sell has anything to do with connectivity. So literally you can look at us or look at me and some of my other colleagues as people who are outside of connectivity. And that's why I said right in the beginning that IOH, as different from Indosat, has gone from, again, another jargon that you might have heard, has gone from a telco to a techco. We are now a technology company, and we do a lot of work on data monetization, for example. There's a lot of banks. We do a lot of work on. We're building our own credit systems. We're building our own ways of analyzing data. So there's a lot of other work that is happening outside, and all of us represent that new tech core that we're talking about. So digital twins is, I just talked about digital twins because it's something that people are familiar with, but it is technology that we are in a position to implement in Indonesia today.
This is for next.
And we are, by the way, talking to a large automotive manufacturer in this country in terms of improving the production efficiency to a certain level through processes like this. That was the first question. So continuing on that, what do we want to do in Indonesia? So our and this is now I'm talking of IOH. IOH's mission is to empower Indonesia. There is a white paper that we have published with our intentions, which is called Empowering Indonesia. And really my request would be that if, at the end of this, we can give them all a digital copy of that white paper. I think that very clearly establishes what we want to do, and it is. I mean, we are very clear what our purpose is. We are a purpose-driven company, and our purpose is to empower Indonesia. So we are very, very committed to that. The next question that we had specifically about cement manufacturing. Well, yes, there is. I mean, we have a blueprint. The blueprint I'm talking about is for a vertical. So yeah, as for a vertical. So we have built a blueprint, let us say for manufacturing generally. We are building a blueprint for mining. We are trying to now, then we want to build a blueprint for transportation and logistics. Is that?
Detail enough, like for example, Cisco have as a call CVD, Cisco Validated
Yeah,
Design.
so principally the concept is similar. You would have something that.
So that detail.
Sorry?
That detail.
Yes. Principally it is similar. Yes. And
From him. Can I ask from him?
we are in the middle of a discotheque. I can see. Sorry.
Can I ask that document from him? Or or the company need, for example, NDA first? That
We are happy to have that conversation once we go to a company. We discuss with them what is the assessment process. It's a part of the assessment process and part of the solution.
So NDA first, then blueprints shared. Okay, noted.
There's no free lunch.
Sir.
So regarding the question about the cement company, well, we haven't done any work with a cement company in Indonesia as well, but if you have a cement company in mind, we are happy to have that conversation. Okay, anyone else? I'm pretty sure I've run out of time, but yeah, I think I have. But anyone else, any other questions? Happy to take that as well.
Yep. I think, thank you, Pak Deepak.
Thank you.
Please remain on this the stage, Pak. Later on, we will have an interactive session. All of the speaker. The next speaker we have from Cisco, Brian Skeleton, Cisco Control Center Specialist from Cisco. Come. Is it works for this one? The microphone? Oh, sure.
So good afternoon, everyone. As I said, my name is Brian Shackleton, and I'm from Cisco. So you can call me the connectivity guy. So this afternoon, we're going to have a look at IoT connectivity management. And we're going to look at a couple of different examples of different platforms that Cisco has. We're going to look at how do we make this quite complex subject simpler, and also a look at what's coming up next. So as the previous speakers have mentioned, around the world, organisations are investing in digital transformation. Over in the US, they are spending billions and billions of dollars on roading, smart intersections and the like. In Europe and North America, they're investing heavily in intelligent transport systems. They're investing in public safety programs, clean energy, you can see there wind farms and the like. IoT connected machines, which is the purpose of today's presentation. And lastly, you can see there the EV market, so EV charging stations. And that is certainly one of the ones that we are seeing that is growing the fastest, is EV charging. And if you think of all the electric vehicles that are now being manufactured around the world, and they're all going to need to be charged, hence the investment in EV charging. But it's easy to talk about transformation, but it causes challenges, both for IT, so the information technology teams, and also the OT, the operational technology teams. We had an example down here before where in remote locations, it can be quite difficult to deploy IoT solutions. It can take a lot of time. And many industrial networks today don't have the level of visibility required. And there's a saying, how do you protect the network if you can't see the network, if you can't see all the assets that are in your network today? And once we've deployed our solutions out into the field, there's the question of site visits. sometimes referred to as truck rolls. If you have to go to that remote site and you have to change something, that can be really expensive and takes a long time and a lot of effort. So these are the challenges we have. And IDC, the analysts, say that IT and OT need to work together to achieve these goals. But let's think about the solutions that we've got available today to manage these industrial assets. The first problem we have is that they are not scalable. So we had the example of electricity smart meters. How do you deploy those, not just in the thousands, the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but millions? And Patrick gave the example of 60 million smart meters. That is a massive effort to get that done. Second, we have the challenge of complexity. There are multiple management systems out there and many different types of connectivity. So how do we make that simple? And lastly, insecure. If you can't see the assets, if you don't know what those assets are on the network, how can you secure them? And the other challenge is people wanting to have remote access to devices on your network. And with Cisco, we've seen many examples of people, third-party vendors, coming on site and just putting on a Wi-Fi hotspot or something, or a cellular router. They'll never notice it, so they can get their own access onto the network. But what they're actually doing is creating a vulnerability in the network itself. So this is Cisco's IoT networking architecture. And I'm not going to go through all of it in detail today. But I will say that you know Cisco today, we do switches, routing, and wireless. Now we have a companion product line, industrial switching, industrial routing, industrial wireless. So these are the ruggedized versions of those same network components. We have some specific solutions around IoT security called CyberVision and edge intelligence for OT virtualization. And on the left-hand side there, you'll see that we have quite a formidable stack of security products. But what I want to talk about today is two in that red area. Control Center, and there's a number of our colleagues here today representing Control Center. And secondly, we'll look at the IoT operations dashboard. So those are the two that we're going to be looking at today. So first up, Control Center. How many people here have heard of Control Center? No, not many? Okay, Control Center is the leading cellular IoT connectivity management platform. And you'll see in a moment that we've got over 223 million cellular connected devices on the platform today. So on the left-hand side there, we have devices. And we want to connect them through, say, IOH's network, the cell network. Because we want to get the data from our devices to our back-end systems, which you'll see on the right-hand side there. And they could be on-prem, or they could be in the cloud, and Google will talk more about that shortly. But it becomes a question of scale, because we're not talking about managing one or two connections. We're talking about managing hundreds of thousands of connections, or even millions of connections for a single customer. And that's why you need a connectivity management platform. Now we'll touch on the capabilities there shortly, but there are unique things in the IoT world about managing the life cycle of a SIM. The ability to do diagnostics and analytics. Security is very important, obviously, for IoT. Cellular cost management, because you're probably all familiar with those dreaded overages, and the back-end integration. So the way that Control Center works is it's a cloud-based platform, but we do an integration into the network. So in this case, we've done an integration into the IOH network. And enterprises use Control Center either through a user interface, a web interface, which they absolutely love, but also using APIs. And APIs are going to be increasingly important moving forward. So as mentioned, Control Center is the market leader for cellular IoT connectivity management. This slide is already out of date. Every time I update the slide, I know it's going to be out of date within a week because we are adding over 3 million devices per month. So as you can see there, we're well on the way to 250 million devices. And we're now forecasting that in the relatively near future, we will have over 1 billion cellular IoT connected devices on the platform. You'll see on the left there that we have over 50 service providers in our family of Control Center, and we're proud to have IOH as one of our partners in the family. And on the right there, you'll see that there's over 32,000 enterprises that use Control Center today. And one of those, ABB, we're going to talk about ABB a little bit more in a moment because that is a really good case study of using Control Center. So let's say that I'm an enterprise, and I could be maybe an electricity smart meter provider. How can I use Control Center to help my business be more effective? The first thing we want to do is we want to be able to scale up faster. We want to get those smart meters into homes as quickly as possible because that represents time to revenue. The more smart meters out there, the more revenue I'm going to get as the smart meter operator. So Control Center enables you to do zero-touch provisioning. So you don't have to worry, the installer doesn't have to worry about getting the SIM provisioned. All the installer needs to do is mount the smart meter on the wall, turn the smart meter on, and Control Center automatically activates the connections in the back end so that the installer can move on to the next smart meter installation. If I'm an enterprise, I want to be able to change the SIMs myself, to activate them or deactivate them, and to change rate plans without having to contact IOH. No offense to IOH, but I want to do it myself because that's much quicker if I do it myself. Now we can set up complex life cycles using automation rules, such that, say, if we're talking maybe about a smart meter being manufactured, say, maybe in Vietnam, but then coming into Indonesia here, we recognize that it's in a new zone, Indonesia, and we can change the rate plan automatically. We don't have to do anything. We can just use the automation rules in Control Center. And finally, API integrations. So systems talking to Control Center and the other way around. It's the new way that everybody is communicating. So platforms talking to other platforms. The second thing we want to do is to be able to operate smarter. So say there's a problem with my connection, a smart meter is not working properly. We want to be able to analyze it ourselves without having to contact IOH. So we have a couple of tools there, one called a diagnostic wizard, which is a high-level look at what might be going on. and also a spotlight function. So you can actually look down in to see what's happening with the device and how it's talking to, in this case, the IOH network. As an enterprise, we want to know about our usage. How much data, SMS and voice, are we using? Not at the end of the month, but as we go during the month. And we also want to have insight into our usage, our service analytics, and our deployment dashboards. So Control Centre has a very, very effective set of dashboards that our customers use and our service providers use too to get real business insights. And then security. How does Control Centre help enterprises to protect better? So we have a concept of IMEI, allow and deny lists. So that means that if your SIM is all of a sudden in some other strange device and it's trying to connect to your network, Control Centre can block it and say, I don't recognise that device. Also got the ability to detect if a SIM is moved from one device to another device. That's actually my favourite automation rule, because what it means is that somebody has compromised maybe that smart meter, they've got the SIM, and they've now put it in something else, maybe a tablet or something. We also have other security features, as you'd expect, things like two-factor authentication, single sign-on, and the like. So that's a little bit about Control Centre. So let's now have a look at a real-world example, ABB. So how many people in the audience are familiar with ABB? Yep, there's a few hands going up. ABB is the second largest robotics manufacturers in the world. They're a Swedish-Swiss company, and they're headquartered out of Zurich. And their business is all about building robots. But the problem they had was their production downtime. And it's been mentioned by the previous speakers. If your production line is down, that's costing potentially tens of thousands of dollars a minute. It's incredibly expensive. And the problem that ABB had was that they could only respond once the event had occurred. So what they did was two things. First of all, they put cellular connectivity in all their robots. So they connected them up over the cellular networks. And the second thing they did is they used Control Centre APIs to monitor those cellular connections. And as you can see there, it was able to move from reactive to proactive. But to me, that's only telling part of the story, because there's a much bigger story to be told. What can you do if you add connectivity to your machines? That's the question. And in the case of ABB, they realised that they could now sell a whole bunch of other services. And you can see them listed there. Condition monitoring and diagnostics, backup management, remote access, fleet assessment, asset optimization. So these were all additional services that ABB could sell in addition to the robots, because they now had connectivity. And you can see there that they are able to leverage data that's coming in from all the robots around the world. So that's a really powerful thing for ABB to do. So let's just do a quick double click on those. A little bit fuzzy. So condition monitoring and diagnostics. This enables ABB to restore the robots faster, because if a service technician does have to go on site, they already know roughly what's wrong with the robot. Secondly, backup management. What happens if the robot's programming is lost or damaged? With backup management, they've got a full backup of the robot programming, which can be held off-site and then downloaded back to the robot in the event of a problem. The third one there, remote access. So having quick and secure access. And they say it's like having the expert from ABB sitting there right at the robot controller, because that's the power of having that remote access and having the remote expert able to interrogate the robot. The fourth one is the fleet assessment. So the ability to benchmark the robots against the whole population. And why would they do that? The reason they do that is so that they can identify the hard-working robots. And those are the ones that they need to service more regularly, and maybe service the gearbox or the like, because those are the ones that are going to have problems faster. And then we get into some quite clever ones like asset optimization. So the asset optimization, doing proactive benchmarking and identifying those robots that are not performing well, and doing proactive recommendations. So we've gone from being reactive to proactive. And the nice thing here is all those 5 services can be illustrated on their web-based application called My Robot. So My Robot, they've got all the information at their fingertips. So it could be an outage, it could be a failure, it could be a recommendation. And so ABB says that if you connect your robot to the connected services, they reckon they can have up to 25% fewer incidents and 60% faster response times. And when you're talking about production lines, that equates to thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. So ABB, by adding cellular connectivity and using Control Center to manage that connectivity, was able to transform the way that they do business. So now we're going to change a bit and look at what's coming up in the future. And we've touched a little bit already on private 5G. But what we're seeing at Cisco is we're seeing the world of mobile IoT, so Control Center, and the world of private 5G, the two worlds starting to come together. So at the top there you'll see Control Center, and we spoke about the things that Control Center can do already, but there's a new one there called SLA management. And using the same Control Center platform, we can manage both cellular mobile IoT and also private 5G. Now there's a whole range of additional premium features, and I'll touch on just one of those later. But we also use a multi-technology converged core. And this is for the private 5G piece. So what does that look like? Thank you. No, back one. No, back. 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 Back one more. Thank you. So I won't go through all of this, but this is gives you an idea of the depth of the private 5G offering. From devices down at the bottom, so industrial routers, Catalyst, Meraki, or Cisco devices, through secure access with a couple of the Cisco solutions, Umbrella and Duo Security, through the radio and the packet core, and then moving up to the enterprise identity and policy. So for those of you that are familiar with Cisco, Identity Service Engine and DNA Center, which are used to manage both fixed and wireless networks, and are now being extended to private 5G. And at the top is the operations dashboard control center. So that is the full stack solution delivered as a subscription. So what's some of the target use cases for private 5G? I'll just touch on two very quickly: manufacturing, and secondly, logistics and distribution. So manufacturing, no surprise, robots. So robots, process automation, precision control, and also automated guided vehicles. And we're seeing a lot of interest in 5G at that particular use case. And then for logistics and distribution, similar. So the distribution line, the automation workflow, and again, the automated guided vehicles. So those are some of the cases for private 5G. And we are seeing a lot of interest in particular markets at the moment. For example, the Japanese market is very interested in private 5G. So now just a quick look at where control centers going next. So it was touched on in some of the earlier presentations. The ability to proactively look at what's likely to occur in the future using machine learning. So we've got a couple of solutions here, one called anomaly detection and one called cost optimization. But also 5G SA, so standalone. And in the last few months, we've had an explosion of interest from our carrier partners around 5G SA. And then eSIM Flex. I won't go into it today, but the ability to change the profile on an eSIM. And we have a solution for that. So let's quickly touch on anomaly detection and why it is so important. If you think about IoT today, there are so many things that can go wrong. We could have an issue with hardware. There could be a software bug. And trust me, those happen more often than you think. We could have a problem in the network. Or we could have the bad guys, the malicious actors, attacking our network. For the enterprise, that results in service disruption and a loss of revenue. And for the SP, well, it's support calls, escalations, and quite often a billing credit. And everybody's unhappy at that point. But if you think about how we detect problems, often there's a sign something is going wrong early. I was working with an Australian telco, and they contacted me and said, "Oh, we've got a problem with our point of sales terminals. A whole bunch have stopped working. Can you help us?" Now that service provider was trialing anomaly detection. And we very quickly identified that anomaly detection was saying, "Oh, excuse me, there's a problem. We can see a problem here." And further, it told us which were the point of sales machines that were impacted. Because that's often a hard thing. Which machines are the ones that aren't working? Anomaly detection was telling us these are the machines that are impacted. Now, anomaly detection won't solve all the problems, but at least it helps you zero in on what the problem is, so you can fix things quicker. And that's how, using machine learning, we can detect issues faster, and we can look at them and address them early on before they become those really big issues. And that's where the power of data comes in. And the previous speakers spoke about that. There is so much data coming in now. If you think about Control Center, 223 million devices, all connecting. they've got usage information, they've got connectivity behavior information. How often are they connecting? How long are they connected for? That's a huge amount of data. And if we can use machine learning to look at what does normal look like, and more importantly, what does abnormal look like, we can proactively say, oh, excuse me, there's a problem here. Have a look at this because something doesn't look right. And that may be a long time before the operations teams realise there's an issue. So that was a quick look at Control Centre. So now we're going to change tact and we're going to look more particularly at industrial networking. So in Cisco, in the world of industrial IoT, we say that the heart of the business is the edge. And guess what? The edge is everywhere. From outdoor networks, like a car park, manufacturing we've discussed, roadways and intersections, warehouses and distribution centres, utilities and critical infrastructure. So the edge is everywhere. And surprise, surprise, industrial organisations are accelerating their digital agility. They want to improve their operational efficiency, improve resiliency, and that's particularly important in times of climate change. Reduce downtime, as we've already discussed. Enhance their safety and security, and increase their reliability. It's a bit hard to read, but down the bottom it's saying sustainability is becoming a key business priority. And we are having more and more companies wanting to talk to us about sustainability and how Cisco can help them with their sustainability initiatives. But as we saw before, there are barriers hindering success. There's complexity. There's different connection types. There's so many different management tools. Cybersecurity, we've spoken before about the lack of visibility and those pesky outside vendors wanting to access your network and inadvertently creating security vulnerabilities. But there's another issue too, and that's skilled resources. Because the operations technology staff, they're having to upskill on new management systems and the like. And as we saw before with the IDC research, they say that you need a strong partnership between IT and operations. And more specifically, you need secure connectivity. You need cloud-based operations management systems. And obviously, you need security. And what they say is that IT needs to play a greater role here in helping with those transformation initiatives, particularly for the industrial organisations. So Cisco is in a kind of a unique situation here, because on the one hand we build industrial grade routers, switches, wireless access points, and they are ruggedized and they are designed for those industrial environments, which can be really harsh at times. But on the other side, we've got our background in enterprise networking and everything we know there about things like security and about network architectures and the like. So what we're increasingly seeing is that organisations want to collapse the two separate networks onto a single network. So they want to bring all those industrial assets that used to be in the world of OT and collapse them onto IT networks. And so that's a little bit scary if you're sitting there in an operations team and all of a sudden the IT team might want to have a conversation with you and potentially take over your business. So that's why we have on our industrial side, we have the Cisco IoT operations dashboard. So it's a collection of services to connect, maintain and secure industrial assets. And that's very similar to what we saw with Control Center, connecting, maintaining, securing. And you can see down there we've got a range of different networks. We've got industrial routing, wireless backhaul, LoRa WAN, and the like. So we've got 6 modules there, but I'm just going to touch quickly on 3 of them in the interest of time. So we're going to look at how you can use the operations dashboard to deploy and monitor your industrial networks, how you can use industrial asset vision for your LoRa sensors, and we're going to close out by looking at secure equipment access. So first up, deploying and monitoring our industrial networks. So what we want to do here is that we want to simplify the management of our networks. And what we want to do is make it easy to scale, sound familiar, and deploy. So we want to use sort of plug and play technologies. We want to use configuration templates that have the IT security policies built in as part of those templates. And we want to be able to use proactive maintenance to just have a simple glance of the network alerts and the like. And we really want to make this intuitive and easy to use for the operations teams. So, we really want to have that intuitive experience for the operations users. As mentioned, we want to do plug and play. We want to do zero-touch deployment and have customized forms that they can use. And it sounds incredibly simple. Things like the simple drop-down menus that actually make it so much easier to manage. And you'll see that that user interface there is a very sort of, it's intuitive, there's maps, there's points, there's drop-downs and the like. We also want to get real-time visibility. So in this case, we want to be able to manage the connectivity. It could be the port connectivity or it could be the cellular connectivity. We want to get alerts from the loss of connectivity. And we also want to assign custom names to the devices, so something that means something to the operations teams. It sounds obvious, but you have to think about what would an operations team want to see in a solution. So the second module, which is a very quick look at, is industrial asset vision. Now this is a cloud-based sensor management solution, and this is really designed around LoRa networks. So I'm not sure if many people have had much to do, a bit of a play around with LoRa networks and the like, but they have quite a large range of different types of sensors. And it could be anything from temperature, humidity, light, doors open, closed, and the like. But the thing about LoRa is a couple of things. One is that it can be very useful in some of those more difficult locations where you may not necessarily have cellular coverage, heaven forbid, but it's also very low power. So this could be used, say, in the agricultural sector, where a device only needs to connect, transmit, disconnect, and repeat once a week. It's for those very, very low power scenarios. And so industrial asset vision is a great solution there for those LoRa sensory networks. And then finally, secure equipment access. So we touched on it before. If you have to go and visit a site, particularly if it's a remote site.
Sorry, excuse me. Would you mind, because we are run out of time. How many?
Yep.
Oh,
I thought it was on time, actually.
sure.
I'm checking it. Yep. So, yeah, last few slides. So it can be very, very expensive in terms of the labour required to go out to visit that site. It can be very, very expensive. And with its secure remote access, you can very quickly remotely diagnose issues and also provide the access for internal or external workers. And that's covered on this next slide here. So you've got the ability to grant access for either your internal staff or your external operations staff and give them access, controlled access to your equipment. So very, very useful tool. So to be able to remotely diagnose an issue and control the access to that equipment. And finally, bringing it all together, let's just have a quick look at an example of using secure equipment access. So here we have an example of an offshore wind turbine farm. So we would need to have remote access because there's hundreds of these wind turbines off South Korea. Now they need the access as soon as each wind turbine is installed. But obviously if you have to send a helicopter in or you have to go in by boat, that's going to be really, really expensive. And you also want to use cellular connectivity rather than satellite connectivity, because obviously satellite connectivity is very, very expensive. So using secure equipment access, you get immediate visibility into those wind turbines. You're able to eliminate those really costly in-person site visits, and you can streamline your operations due to the remote access, while at the same time providing secure end-to-end connectivity. And that is the presentation. 5 minutes early.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. We have around 4 minutes for Q&A, but if there is any question from the audience to Brian? Fortunately, Brian, it's very clear enough, so that we will do during the interactive session. Yeah, is that okay? Okay, sure. Sorry, gentlemen. This is difficult time. We do English. We do English very well, but we want to hear from the Google because we want to have a relax. Maybe we are special request to the Google to do some kearifan lokal nanti. Tadi udah disiapkan oleh Bang Aditya. Bahasa daerah sepertinya nanti akan dibawakan. Kita nggak tahu bahasa daerah apa. Semoga bahasa daerah Batak kali ya. Oke, Mas Aditya, sekarang waktunya.
Oke, selamat sore Bapak Ibu semua. Pak Patrick, Pak Dipak, Pak Brian, allow me to continue in Indonesian. So, selamat sore Bapak Ibu semua. Perkenalkan saya Aditya dari Google Cloud. Di Google Cloud saya menghandle solusi-solusi yang terkait dengan data analytics dan juga AI. Dan hari ini saya akan coba sharing mengenai apa sih yang Google Cloud bisa bantu dari segi AI untuk industri manufacturing. Nah, sebelumnya di sini Bapak Ibu ada yang belum pernah pakai Google? Kalau ada angkat tangan saya bingung. Oh, Gmail ada, oke. Ada yang nggak ada ya? Semua pasti pernah pakai Google ya. Jadi mungkin Bapak Ibu sudah tahu sudah ada Google Search, Google Maps, YouTube, Google Lens, Google Photos, semua itu adalah teknologi dari Google. Nah, kadang yang kita tidak sadar sebagai penggunanya adalah sebenarnya di belakang teknologi itu banyak AI, Artificial Intelligence maupun Machine Learning, ML, yang bekerja untuk membantu kita sebagai user sehari-hari. Nah, hasil pengalaman Google dari memanfaatkan AI Machine Learning di produk yang sudah digunakan lebih dari 1 billion user di seluruh pengguna di seluruh dunia, itu kemudian dibentuk jadi solusi AI yang ada di dalam Google Cloud, yang hari ini akan saya coba share. Oke, jadi kalau kita bicara trennya sendiri mengenai Artificial Intelligence dan Machine Learning, trennya ada 3. Yang pertama adalah faster time to market. Bapak Ibu sekalian, sebagai praktisi industri di dunia manufacturing, pasti pengen solusi yang bisa langsung diterapkan. Karena kalau bikin inisiatif tapi baru kejadian 6 bulan lagi atau 1 tahun lagi, udah keburu basi, udah keburu ketinggalan dari kompetitor ataupun dari kebutuhan yang ada di market. Kemudian yang kedua adalah responsible AI. AI bisa bermanfaat, tapi kalau kita biarkan dia lepas juga banyak dampak negatifnya. Sehingga kita juga perlu satu praktisi atau satu sistem gitu ya yang bisa membantu kita dalam menjaga supaya hasil dari AI ini tetap responsibel, baik bagi manusia, baik bagi lingkungan, maupun keseluruhan ekosistem kita. Dan yang ketiga adalah machine learning operations. Jadi kuncinya adalah machine learning itu bukan cuma riset, tapi betul-betul bisa dipakai di industri kita. Karena banyak juga machine learning yang sifatnya riset, yang sifatnya coba-coba, dan belum tentu applicable di industri manufacturing ataupun industri yang kita praktisikan. Nah, di Google sendiri sebenarnya solusinya ada banyak, tapi hari ini saya nggak akan cerita semua, gitu ya. Mungkin kalau bicara in general ya AI-nya ada yang untuk gambar, ada yang untuk video, ada yang untuk suara, ada yang untuk bahasa, ada yang untuk data terstruktur. Tapi hari ini saya akan lebih banyak fokus ke AI yang sifatnya untuk gambar serta video. Jadi vision dan video recording. Bicara vertikalnya sendiri, Google Cloud tidak mendukung hanya untuk manufacturing, tapi bisa juga untuk financial service, bisa juga untuk retail. Tapi baik lagi, karena hari ini waktunya terbatas, saya akan fokus di manufacturing terlebih dahulu. Nah, gimana sih Google membuat AI jadi lebih mudah untuk industri manufacturing? Yaitu dengan punya solusi-solusi yang sifatnya modular. Jadi, Bapak Ibu bisa memilih mana yang sesuai dengan kebutuhan Bapak Ibu, dan mulai dari situ, kemudian expand ke pemanfaatan AI yang lebih luas. Nah, hari ini saya mulai dulu sedikit dengan Vision AI, gitu ya. Jadi di Vision AI ini idenya adalah bagaimana gambar atau video bisa dianalisa dengan bantuan machine learning. Oke, thank you. Nah, jadi contohnya di sini saya punya gambar gitu ya, sebuah langit gitu ya. Kalau kita cemplungin ini ke Google Vision AI, maka dia akan mengeluarkan yang sebelah kanan. Dia mendeteksi bahwa itu adalah gambar sky, langit, yaitu gambar awan, dia gambar ada blue, ada atmosfer, dan seterusnya. Beserta persentase keyakinan dari AI-nya, seberapa yakin dia itu adalah langit, seberapa yakin itu adalah awan, dan seterusnya. Oke? Kalau kita tanya, oke, tapi kalau di industri, emang ngapain kita ngefoto langit gitu ya? Nah, jawabannya ya mungkin bukan ngefoto langit, tapi kalau di industri manufacturing, mungkin Bapak Ibu punya CCTV. Dan CCTV itu continuously memonitor suatu tempat atau wilayah. Bapak Ibu pengen tahu apakah di situ ada manusianya atau enggak. Misalnya itu adalah area terlarang, harusnya nggak ada manusia di situ. Tapi kalau tiba-tiba ada manusia, berarti mungkin ada potensial risk dari segi safety. Kalau tanpa AI ya bisa aja gitu kan, ada orang yang manually ngecekin CCTV-nya, liatin gitu ya. Tapi kan yang namanya manusia mungkin lagi nggak awas, atau yang namanya video ya ada aja gitu kan yang lewat. Nggak mungkin ada orang yang terus melihat video terus menerus. Sementara dengan bantuan AI, nggak perlu ada orang yang mantengin terus menerus, cukup AI yang bekerja. Begitu dia mendeteksi ada manusia, terdetek di jam berapa, langsung kirim alert ke supervisornya, misalnya yang ada di lapangan, supaya bisa segera ambil tindakan. Bisa juga misalnya untuk mendeteksi mobil. Jadi kapan mobil itu lewat gitu ya, sehingga kita tahu berapa mobil yang masuk ke warehouse kita, misalnya berapa mobil yang keluar dari warehouse kita. Tapi kadang kebutuhannya lebih detail, karena kalau Vision AI misalnya yang lewat adalah mobil, maka dia hasilnya simply akan bilang car. Dia nggak akan bisa bilang itu adalah car jenis apa atau mobil jenis apa. Sementara di beberapa customer mungkin kebutuhannya lebih spesifik. Saya pengen mendeteksi bukan mobil, tapi saya pengen mendeteksi apakah itu mobil, misalnya kalau untuk industri FMCG ya, apakah itu mobil truk S, apakah itu mobil kontainer biasa, atau apakah itu mobil operasional, ya, jadi mobil bukan truk, gitu ya. Sehingga kita nggak bisa sekedar mengenali bahwa itu adalah mobil. Nah, untuk itulah di Google ada yang namanya AutoML. Di mana kalau dengan AutoML, Bapak Ibu bisa menambahkan pengetahuan ke AI-nya Google. Jadi kalau AI-nya Google sebelumnya hanya bisa mengenali mobil, sekarang Bapak Ibu bisa tambahin, diajarin gitu ya AI-nya Google untuk bisa mengenali, oh mungkin Bapak Ibu punya 3 kategori truk. Truk A, truk B, dan truk C. Dia warnanya beda, bentuknya beda gitu ya. Sehingga ya udah Bapak Ibu tinggal kasih contoh fotonya gitu ya, truk A kayak gimana, truk B kayak gimana, truk C kayak gimana. Dan contohnya kayak gini, di case awan tadi gitu ya. Sekarang saya ngajarin mana yang awannya jenisnya cirrus, mana yang awannya jenisnya cumulus, mana yang awannya jenisnya cumulonimbus. Dan tadi kalau case truk ya, truk mana yang truk A, truk B, truk C gitu ya. Sehingga sekarang kalau saya kasih gambar, dia ngeluarin hasilnya bukan cloud, dia ngeluarin hasil prediksinya bukan sky gitu ya, tapi hasilnya adalah mungkin yang sebelah kanan kurang jelas, tapi itu dia mendeteksi 54% ini kemungkinan adalah kumulus awannya. Hal yang sama bisa diterapkan juga oleh Bapak Ibu untuk nentuin apakah yang lewat itu truk A atau truk B atau truk C. Dan tidak hanya truk, ini bisa untuk apapun. Bisa untuk jenis produk misalnya, bisa untuk staff gitu ya, untuk membedakan mana yang staff, mana yang bukan, atau bisa juga untuk mendeteksi kelengkapan APD misalnya. Jadi kita pengen melihat apakah orang yang lewat di suatu factory kita, bagian factory kita, APD-nya sudah lengkap atau belum. Jadi banyak pemanfaatannya karena baik lagi, ini bisa di custom sesuai dengan industri atau bahkan bukan sesuai industri, perusahaan milik Bapak Ibu yang mungkin berbeda dengan perusahaan lain. Pemanfaatan lain yang lebih spesifik adalah visual inspection. Jadi kalau kita bicara manufacturing, salah satu proses yang mungkin biasa selama ini masih berjalan manual adalah quality check. Di mana biasanya kita punya production line dan ada orang yang secara terus-menerus mantengin gitu ya production line-nya untuk ngecek apakah ada barang yang defect atau enggak. Nah, visual inspection bisa membantu. Ini adalah salah satu bentuk AI yang kita bilang specific needs. Kalau tadi vision AI dan AutoML kan general ya, bisa untuk objek apapun. Tapi kalau visual inspection, dia didesain, sudah dilatih khusus untuk mendeteksi defect. Dan ada 3 macam yang dia bisa deteksi. Yang pertama adalah mengecek apakah ada anomali. Yang kedua untuk mengecek apakah ada defect di barangnya, apakah ada cacat. Dan yang ketiga untuk mengecek misalnya assembly-nya atau komponennya sudah lengkap atau belum. Jadi contohnya yang pertama ada satu manufacturing, dia bikin PCB board gitu ya. Di dalam PCB boardnya itu ada sekitar 600 komponen di dalamnya. Company ini memproduksi sekitar 3.000 sampai 4.000 board setiap hari. Sebelumnya mereka manual. Jadi board itu akan lewat di factory line, ada orang yang liatin. Jadi setiap boardnya lewat, itu dia akan angkat gitu ya, dia liatin begini sekitar 30 detik. Kalau udah dia nyatakan oke, dia taruh lagi, maka lanjut line-nya. Tapi kalau dia lihat ada yang cacat, dia akan pindahin ke line yang terpisah. Nah itu typically butuh 30 detik per komponen untuk ngeceknya. Dan even dengan sudah 30 detik dicek dan ada orang yang menggunakan itu, escape rate mereka masih sekitar 30%. Escape rate berarti produk yang sebenarnya defect tapi akhirnya lolos gitu ya, itu masih ada sekitar 30%. Akhirnya company ini memanfaatkan Google Visual Inspection AI, ya, solusi dari Google. Kemudian yang berbeda adalah sekarang dia sudah dilatih gitu ya, barang yang cacat, PCB yang cacat kayak gimana gitu ya. Halo, ya, thank you. Jadi sebelumnya butuh 30, itu cukup difoto. 1 detik kemudian visual inspection udah ngeluarin hasilnya, apakah dia defect atau enggak. Jadi dan dengan 1 detik di capture itu, hasilnya, akurasinya juga bisa lebih bagus. Kalau yang sebelumnya escape rate 30%, dengan bantuan AI dari Google, escape rate-nya sekarang tinggal 10% aja. Memang nggak bisa 100%, tapi balik lagi, kita punya baseline-nya sebelumnya adalah bisa lebih baik dan lebih cepat. Otomatis secara bisnis ya impact-nya sedikit yang keluar sampai ke user, sehingga kita juga bisa menangani produk defect itu dengan lebih cepat. Case lain di ini manufacturer pintu gitu ya. Jadi di pintu itu sebenarnya mereka pengen mendetek apakah ada goresan, apakah ada lem yang nyisa di pintunya gitu ya. Apakah ada tekstur yang nggak rata. Jadi jenis-jenis kerusakan itu, defect-defect itu diajarin ke AI-nya Google. Hasilnya sebelumnya si company ini, si door manufacturer ini, mereka bikin AI-nya sendiri. Dan supaya memberikan gambaran ke Bapak Ibu yang namanya bikin AI sendiri, itu perlu bangun tim dulu, perlu mempelajari dulu modelnya seperti apa, perlu mengumpulkan dulu datanya. Dan jadi biasanya secara time to marketnya akan lama. Bedanya dengan solusi Google adalah solusi Google sudah ready untuk dipakai. Bapak Ibu tinggal tambahin, ajarin yang spesifik produk yang Bapak Ibu punya, termasuk defect-nya apa gitu ya. Diajarin ke AI-nya Google, kemudian sudah bisa siap pakai. Sehingga nggak perlu nungguin harus bangun tim dulu, harus interview orang dulu, harus cari infrastrukturnya dulu. Semua itu bisa langsung di-skip gitu ya, karena sudah bisa langsung pakai solusi. Mereka bangun sendiri, custom, manual gitu ya, itu false positive rate-nya atau produk yang sebenarnya nggak defect tapi dianggap defect, itu ada sekitar 15%. Dengan solusi dari Google, itu turun jadi cuma 2,24% aja. Jadi, kompresor angin gitu ya, jadi ada valve-nya, sama perusahaan ini memproduksi valve untuk kompresor angin gitu ya. Mereka pengen mencari defect gitu ya, mana yang normal itu yang di sebelah ke nomor 3 ya. Mereka pengen mencari mana yang, kadang defect-nya itu sealingnya kedouble kayak yang paling kiri. Atau bahkan sealingnya kadang missing kayak yang kedua dari kiri. Atau bahkan bisa jadi valve-nya missing yang paling kanan. Nah, defect-defect ini kamera yang bekerja meng-capture untuk mencari mana yang defect supaya langsung diambil tindakan terhadap barang yang defect tersebut. Oke. Contoh lain dari Google adalah tidak hanya untuk visual inspection, tapi juga untuk anomaly detection. Anomaly detection ini gimana? Sebagai contoh misalnya temperatur. Kalau kita nggak pakai AI, biasanya kita akan menggunakan aturan yang ada di buku manualnya. Misalnya buku manualnya bilang, mesin ini beroperasi boleh sampai 70 derajat. Sehingga kalau di atas 70 derajat, udah pasti harus tindakan sesuatu. Jadi biasanya sistem-sistem pada umum ya, akan punya alarm ketika suhunya di atas 70 derajat. Tapi kalau kita bicara anomaly detection, sebenarnya kita nggak bisa, ini mesin ini bekerja. Misalnya Bapak Ibu sudah punya mesin itu selama 5 tahun, selama 5 tahun bekerja, mesin itu nggak pernah lebih dari 50 derajat. Tiba-tiba hari ini dia jadi 60 derajat. Kalau Bapak Ibu tanpa AI, ya udah masih 60 derajat, masih di bawah threshold. Penggunaan sebelumnya udah 5 tahun nggak pernah lebih dari 50 derajat, tiba-tiba hari ini 60 derajat, berarti itu anomali, maka bisa langsung kasih alert. Nah, itulah bagaimana Google untuk anomaly detection, di mana dia melihat bukan berdasarkan aturan yang baku, melainkan betul-betul berdasarkan penggunaan Bapak Ibu di lapangan. Jadi memang hari ini saya singkat aja, semoga memberikan gambaran mengenai bagaimana Google Cloud AI bisa membantu Bapak Ibu, dan apa sih yang menjadi inovasinya dimanfaatkan dari tadi, Google produk yang sudah digunakan oleh begitu banyak user dengan begitu banyak rangkaian produknya, secara akurasinya juga sudah banyak digunakan oleh manufacturer-manufacturer di luar sana, dan dia sifatnya end-to-end. Jadi kalau Bapak nggak punya tim data scientist, nggak punya orang yang betul-betul bisa coding, semua yang saya tunjukkan tadi bisa kita jalankan tanpa perlu coding. Tapi di sisi, kalau Bapak Ibu punya tim data scientist yang dedicated, punya orang yang memang sudah membangun expertise-nya di situ, sehingga pengen bentuknya lebih advance, Google juga mendukung kalau mau mendukung tim tersebut gitu ya, dengan model yang lebih spesifik, algoritma yang lebih advance, atau bahkan membangun sendiri sesuai dengan industri atau company Bapak Ibu. Norma yang kita ikutin untuk terus mempertahankan supaya AI-nya itu being a responsible AI, baik untuk customer, untuk environment, dan untuk keseluruhan ekosistem masing-masing. Makanya solusi AI dari Google juga disesuaikan dengan industri dari penggunanya. Sekian sesi dari saya, semoga memberikan gambaran. Terima kasih. Selamat sore.
Terima kasih, Mas Ditya. Di situ. Ya. Oke, kita ke seksi interaktif. Saya mengundang Mas Supriyadi, VP Business Technology Support. Jadi di dalam interaksi ini ada aturan mainnya gitu ya, dan ini paling penting. Jadi dalam interaksi ini, khusus nanti yang di online, kita harapkan 2 pertanyaan. Pertanyaan yang dihargai, yang di reward. Khusus untuk offline kita kasih 10 slot. Jadi pastikan punya pertanyaan yang ciamik gitu ya, kata anak sekarang. Kita akan coba mulai dari sesi interaktif ini. Nanti mungkin dibantu untuk yang online. Nanti tinggal kita filter yang mana yang 2 di antara mereka dan 10 akan langsung kita serahkan ke yang offline. Mungkin saya serahkan sesinya Mas Supridi, monggo.
Oke. Baik, selamat sore semua. Sepertinya udah mulai kendor. Kita masih ada 1 jam 11 menit menuju berbuka. Masih semangat ya? Oke, jadi mungkin sebelum kita lanjut ke sesi tanya jawab, kita kasih tepuk tangan yang meriah dulu nih buat para speaker kita sore kali ini. Thank you, good afternoon, gentlemen. Very insightful, very aspiring. So hopefully all of material that you deliver to everybody here can give everyone here, including me, right, a new insight on how can we leverage IoT for industrial, especially on the manufacturing industry. So maybe Bapak Ibu kita mulai sesi tanya jawab. Tadi dikasih 10, kita open aja ya. Waktunya kita stick dengan timeline, waktunya sampai dengan jam 4. Kita buka untuk 2 pertanyaan dulu. Feel free nanti boleh pakai bahasa Inggris, boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia, bebas aja. Silakan. Mungkin dari sisi sebelah sini dulu. Ada yang tertarik ingin mengvalidate? Atau saya tanya dulu kali ya sambil tunggu ya.
Boleh.
So I have questions to Mas Adit. Mas Adit, you know everybody here probably already try ChatGPT, right? So then my question is, when Google will deliver the same on the ChatGPT? Because you know, Bing already implemented these solutions, and everybody knows that the biggest search engine is Google. Why Google not join on that? Silakan, Mas.
Yeah, thank you, Mas Freddy, for the question. So actually, Google already have BART, in case you haven't noticed. So it's already starting to roll out, mostly in the US right now. For Indonesian language, I think not yet. But BART is essentially how we leverage the large language model to enable you to answer the questions and create a more open-ended questions. But in addition to BART, actually, if you already use Google Workspace, for example, which is previously called G Suite, which consists of Gmail, Google Slides, Google Docs, and so on, we already embed those capability inside Google Workspace. So, for example, if you have one document in Google Docs, the summary section of your Google Docs can automatically created. So instead of you manually build the summary, you can use that summary and it's already available to use. In addition, now in Google Cloud, we also have what we call generative AI. So in generative AI, we also leverage the large language model, which targeted more on the enterprise. If BART is more for public use or personal use, the Google Cloud Generative AI is meant for more for enterprise and B2B use cases. So actually, those are already starting to be available. And if you're interested, you can just Google it, and you can find BART or Google Generative AI.
Google BART ya?
BART, B-A-R-T.
Thank you, Mas. So maybe we can imagine later on in the near future, many people need to learn and to find another job, yeah, because maybe the admin will no longer need it, right, by the company. So before we do manually doing assessment on spreadsheet, for example, or financial report by this AI, it can be done in one click ya. That's very dangerous then. Oke, Bapak Ibu ada pertanyaan mungkin? Silakan Pak Markus. Mas Yoga, mic-nya, Mas Yoga.
Yep. Pak Markus ya? Oh iya.
Thank you, Mas Supri, Mas Yoga. I think this goes to all speakers. Just introduce myself. My name is Marcus. I'm from G4S, security industry. And since I think the topics today is focused more on manufacturing, I actually have kind of question because in our industry, we also have different segments. One of them is industrial and manufacturing. And I would say, unfortunately, if I compare between those segments, say you mentioned mining, energy resources, as well as we have also others like business services and IT. And I see that the adoption rate for manufacturing in terms of IoT, at least in our industry, is, I would say, like the lowest. I don't know why, probably the mindset, at least for Indonesia, the reference for Indonesia. But if I see there are a lot of potentials actually that it's really big industry. But again, as I said, unfortunately, the statistic that I see right now, it's still very low. I don't know, what I want to ask is that also what you see in, overall, or is it only applicable from the angle that I see? And I think this is something that, especially since I'm here with a lot of colleagues here, and those are the area that I think we can still explore to work. That's what I want to ask.
Okay, thank you, Pak Markus. Maybe we can start from Pak Deepak. You want to take the answer?
Can you, yeah, I got it. Thanks. Hello, Pak Markus. Good to see you again. Look, I think that just to clarify on your question, we are not talking of digital security manufacturing. We're talking of IoT adoption in manufacturing. Is that correct? Yeah. So there's a problem with IoT adoption in general. I'll explain the problem to you. The problem is that this market is very fragmented. So what happens? You see, it is very easy for somebody to put together a device, write a small application, and introduce it to a company. A lot of companies start IoT as an experiment. So some bright person in the IT department will say, okay, let us do an experiment. And as a result of this, a lot of these experiments fail. The most successful IoT adoption happens when it starts from the C-suite, which means that the CEO and the CXO have it on their digital agenda. They have a clear digital agenda, and IoT is at the center of that digital agenda because it requires their businesses have distributed data which needs to be consolidated. All successful adoptions are starting from the top, and unfortunately. So the problem, what I'm trying to say is, it's not only in manufacturing; it is across the industries. So typically, this is what I tell the salespeople when they go out and start looking for business, is to find out who is driving the agenda. If the agenda is being driven by a function or is being driven, one level below the CXO, we can be sure that it is somebody who's trying to get knowledge at somebody else's expense. And that will never be scaled up or be driven in that organization. But that's the main reason, because otherwise manufacturing is across the world is one of the most important segments for IoT. It is really today we call it IoT, but in the early days, M2M and all of those things, it started from manufacturing, right? Because devices were communicating and all of that things. So that's my view on why adoption is low in general. Over to Sanfi as well.
Thank you, Pak. Maybe Brian, you want to continue?
Yep. Am I live? Yeah, I think I definitely agree that the industry historically has been very fragmented, And so you do get the rise of those bespoke little solutions. But I think there's also a realization that one company can't necessarily do the whole thing. And where I've seen some really successful deployments, they've actually taken an ecosystem approach, and they've gone in maybe as a consortium, and different parties play different parts in the solution because they bring different parts of the expertise. So it might be one that is very strong on security, for example. Another might be very strong on, say, visualization. A third might be very strong on the analytics and the like. So I think we do need to think about how can we take more of an ecosystem approach, and rather than just one company trying to do everything, to actually identify a group of companies that are prepared to work together on a particular solution. And certainly have seen some examples around the region whereby taking an ecosystem approach, there's been much more successful in delivering business outcomes.
Thank you, Brian. Maybe Mas Adit.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with what Pak Deepak and Pak Brian explained. Maybe to add a little more, based on what I see, is many of manufacturing company in Indonesia sees this technology is something that something like a factory machine, where you need to buy the machine and then ensure there is a place to put that machine. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of planning to do that. So what I see with now we have this cloud technology is the idea is you don't have to prepare the infrastructure, you don't have to prepare the physical space and so on, but you really can start small, adjusting to your needs, and start with something what we usually call MVP, minimum viable product, and then grow from there. So the reason it's now better because with MVP you can quickly show the benefit without waiting until 1 year or 2 years until you realize the full benefits. And but getting that small steps running is really the stepping stone, and then move further from there and you can adjust along as you go further. So I think that's how technology can help.
Thank you, Mas. Patrick.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, particularly on what Deepak touched on about how these industries are actually created. One of the biggest challenges you have with homegrown solutions and those little innovative centers is more often than not they're not built to any common standard. So they might build something that works, but it will only work in isolation in most cases because they haven't taken into account industry standards, protocols, management platforms, and quite often they actually it's what I call Frankenstein. They build Frankenstein, and so it will work in isolation. But I think what the panelists talked about here is absolutely spot on, and I think adoption across the wider industry, whether it be manufacturing or security or logistics or whatever sector it is, it needs to be done in a structured way to make sure you don't, after your MVP, you actually have something that is a minimum viable product. And that's absolutely key in my eyes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that gives some insight. I totally agree. There are a few factors there. I agree with one is the ecosystem that you mentioned, and also the support from the C-level. And I also see that the border between industry is now, it's like a blur, right? Like, for example, I'm taking the industry that I'm in right now, security. When I joined the company, I was thinking of like a very traditional security, like a man guarding only. But when I came in, I was surprised that it's actually more than that. A lot of potential technology And when I see that, it also come to thinking of when we talk to, let's say, manufacturing. Don't just sell, let's say, security, but so we can come from really different angle, which is pointed back to the whole ecosystem, right? And that's probably something that actually, again, the collaboration between different industry can really push this adoption rate. Thanks, guys, for the insight.
Oke,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mungkin ini kali ya, belum memenuhi kuota nih Mas, gimana? Karena ada punya kuota nih, gitu. Pertanyaannya. Jadi clue-nya sih sebenarnya GoPay gitu ya untuk rewardnya.
Bentar, tanya dulu, apa, Mas? Kayaknya kita pernah ketemu ya. Apa? Saya boleh komplimen nggak? Komplimen
Boleh dong,
yang
Pak.
tadi sudah dijelaskan.
Boleh, silakan.
Jadi Pak Lukas ya?
Pak Markus.
Markus, Matius, Markus, Lukas, Yohanes. Maaf kalau keselip. Gitu. Saya datang dari dunia manufaktur, Mas. Pak lah, jangan Mas gitu ya, Pak. Jadi kalau untuk menjawab pertanyaan Bapak, adopsinya rendah IoT, tergantung sih Pak. Tergantung kultur, tergantung bosnya gitu. Sekian tahun yang lalu saya di Danone, jadi heavy manufaktur, kita justru rajin banget, gitu. Jadi memang tergantung kulturnya gitu. Ada driver dari internalnya gitu, yang memang mendorong untuk melakukan pengetesan ke arah situ. Jadi memang mesti disupport. Menurut aku sih tergantung kultur ya. Nggak semua manufaktur rendah pengadopsiannya. Gitu. Ada manufaktur yang justru agresif. Gitu. Kuncinya tadi dari atas sama kultur. Gitu. Nah, saya mau tanya ini ke Google. Ini pertanyaannya sepertinya susah nih, Mas. Saya nggak yakin Anda bisa jawab. Gitu. Jadi kan acaranya ini kan industrial IoT. Lah, sampean iki Google Analytics gitu. Pertanyaan saya gini. Saya sebenarnya cukup kecewa karena platform Google IoT Core akan ditutup Agustus besok. Agustus 2023 walaupun sudah diumumkan setahun sebelumnya. Nah, untuk pihak-pihak yang sudah kadung main di Google platform IoT Core, Google nggak menyediakan pengganti. Gitu. Kalau di news press-nya itu ya silahkan main di AI sama ML. As if Google tuh udah nggak mau mainan industrial IoT di B2B manufaktur, maunya di retail. Misalnya device, pokoknya yang jumlahnya banyak lah, yang jutaan device gitu. Jadi revenue-nya mau ke arah situ. Jadi pertanyaan saya, ini sebenarnya jawabannya cuma yes apa no, tapi juga nggak yakin juga sih bisa jawab soalnya sampean dari analytics bukan dari IoT core-nya gitu. Ini memang udah Google nggak akan main industrial IoT B2B. Yes or no aja sih.
Oke. Jawabannya masih Pak, tapi itulah sebabnya kami berpartner salah satunya dengan iOS, di mana solusinya jadi bukan cuma Google aja untuk jadi solusi industrial IoT, melainkan bersama iOS ya kita membentuk jadi solusinya.
Iya, berarti kan platform IoT-nya dari iOS, sensornya dari iOS. Kalau di IoT value chain, berarti Google hanya main di ujung sebelah kanan, analytics top, which is about 20% of the revenue percentage gitu.
Betul. Jadi memang secara arahan memang kami berpartnership.
Oh, berarti sebenarnya jawabannya yes and no ini.
Ya, kalau Mas Novan mau nambah.
Call a friend.
Oh, kalau friend.
Baik, selamat sore Ibu, Bapak. Saya Novan dari Google Indonesia, membantu Pak Aditya. Enggak, saya tadi merhatiin makanan di belakang terus. So, basically kita akan tetap fokus di masing-masing vertical industry. Cuma memang tadi ada yang bicara tentang ekosistem. Salah satu Bapak di sini, which is definitely itu yang kita lakukan. Ekosistem kita juga sudah cukup besar, cukup luas, sehingga yang namanya IoT itu kita serahkan ke partner-partner kita, termasuk Indosat. Mungkin kalau Anda masuk ke marketplace-nya Google, itu ada namanya Litmus. Jadi dia yang men-take over solusinya Google, dan itu jadi special niche expertise-nya mereka. Memang kalau kita lihat dari sisi solutionnya IoT, memang sangat niche sebenarnya. Benar kata Bapak juga, saya mengakui bahwa size volumenya tidak sebesar yang kita bayangkan. Sehingga kita akan fokus di sisi yang seperti itu, tetapi kita yakin ekosistem kita masih support itu, termasuk Indosat. Makanya kita kerjasama dengan Indosat, salah satunya adalah yang kita lakukan building expertise bersama mereka nih, di area IoT bersama Pak Dipak dan teman-teman. Termasuk Litmus itu yang ada di marketplace, dia tetap fokus membawa solusi kita untuk di-offering ke market. Jadi kalau Bapak ke marketplace, cari Litmus, IoT solution-nya kita ada di situ Pak sekarang. Itu sih mungkin jawaban standar saya. Terima kasih Pak.
Mungkin saya menambahkan sedikit Pak, karena saya pengguna juga gitu ya. IoT Core yang ada di Google itu hanya broker yang sebenarnya untuk pengguna IoT itu masih sangat beginner lah ya. Nah, sekarang ada satu versi yang Google sekarang coba onboard juga akan ada di marketplace, namanya Leverage Connect, Pak. Di Leverage Connect itu bukan hanya broker, termasuk juga nanti capability untuk managing device-nya, updating firmware, which is itu mungkin kalau di other platform kayak AWS dan lain-lain kan mereka nggak main sampai ke sana, Pak. Hanya IoT monolithic platform aja seperti Cumulocity, ThingsWorks yang memang provide itu gitu. Nah, mereka mau coba tapi tidak bangun sendiri dengan kolaborasi dengan mitranya mereka, Pak. Enggak, kita miringnya tetap ke Google sekarang, Pak.
Miring ke arah retail.
Oh, oke. Ya, kalau itu mungkin domainnya Google, Pak, yang menjawab. Area retail tetap atau area retail dan B2B-nya tetap? Tetap, Pak. Karena engine of growth-nya Google di Google Cloud itu di B2B kan?
Ya, memang makanya kenapa tadi yang saya bilang ecosystem is very important. Jadi kita memang tidak bisa cover semua vertical industry. Use cases tetap ada Pak, kita standar. Kita punya use cases untuk vertical industry retail, CPG, manufacturing, kita bicara asset management. Tadi salah satu use casesnya tadi kan visual inspection ya, gitu, melihat defect dari output production yang ada gitu ya sebagai QC. Tapi banyak sekali use cases yang lainnya seperti area vision untuk security, for example ya salah satunya itu. Tapi intinya adalah semua vertical industry tetap kita fokusin, tapi memang kita tidak punya semua resourcesnya juga. Subject matter expert kita memang disebar di seluruh dunia, sehingga kita memang sangat grooming partner yang spesialis di masing-masing area itu. Kita ada partner yang spesialis di area AI, ada yang spesial di area manufacturing, ada spesialis di area retail, CPG, terutama banking ya, itu yang paling banyak itu. Nah, termasuk Indosat bersama kita kerjasama, kita udah bicara banyak mengenai vertical industry mana yang mau kita aim, bagaimana kita menerapkan semua toolsnya, IoT beserta AI-nya untuk bisa kita deploy ke customer. Yang paling penting use cases sebenarnya Pak, itu ya itu. Karena use cases itu yang saya sendiri juga ikut ke lapangan bersama teman-teman Indosat ke beberapa distribusi retail, company yang besar, dan kita menerapkan banyak hal di situ ya. Memang ada yang setempat memang harus kita develop, definitely. Tapi develop itu bersama partner lagi gitu ya, expertise-nya bersama Indosat gitu. Terima kasih, itu mungkin jawaban saya Pak, terima kasih.
Thank you. Kita batasi maksimum 2 lagi ya, karena waktunya juga sudah lewat.
Ya.
Dari online dulu mungkin, sebelum offline, ada pertanyaan dari online? Oke, mungkin dari siapa dulu Bu, namanya dan tunjukkan ke siapa pertanyaannya.
I'm Shirley from manufacturing. This is maybe a stupid question. We understand the whole story. The machines produce some outputs, and then the IoT captures the outputs, and then we transfer it, put it as a reporting dashboards, and then from that data we analyze everything. We put the machines learning in, so if certain parameters fall or exceeds these limits, then highlight this is a diagnostic, like go and prevent and do something. So that's really wonderful. I think Brian also put that the challenges is in the remote areas. So all in all, in Indonesia, because the connectivity is wonderful, no problems, but we have a factory in Papua New Guinea. That's where I work for almost 4 years. We have a lot of plant breakdowns, and then the connectivity is terrible. You mentioned 50 providers. I don't know how many has existed in that country. I think Telstra from Australia, everybody, but every time it rains, then the internet is down. There was an earthquake, and then we don't have internet at all for a few days. So what are your interim solutions until Indosat or whoever wants to build a lot of BTS in that particular countries to alert the other regions, hey, this is the manufacturing performance in Papua New Guinea, in these remote countries? Thank you.
All right, I think this question should be answered by Patrick and Pak Deepak. Do you want to take that one? How do we solve the issue on the connectivity, especially on remote area?
Well, it's an interesting one. I'll go back, and it was actually working with Cisco many years ago when I was at Vodafone. We actually developed a solution for remote health kiosks actually in India, in conjunction with Cisco. So there is technology there. I can't speak to our network rollout. I think I'm going to pass that over. I'm going to pass that over to my business side colleague. But we actually that was back in 2010, and we put in a solution for that. And also during the earthquake in Nepal, we deployed it again with some other remote systems to actually address those problems. So, like I said, there are solutions, and they're since 2010 they've advanced light years advancement have been made. So it's a wider problem. But I'm gonna have slopey shoulders, and I'm gonna pass it to my colleague to the right.
I said, apart from the earthquake and all of that, I said, aren't you glad that you sometimes don't have internet? It's a nice thing, right, to be disconnected from the world. But having said that, there is this solution that Vodafone had developed that Patrick's talking about, which was meant, it was literally like, it's like a suitcase. Literally, you open that suitcase and you're connected in that sense. It was meant for disaster relief and those kind of places. But having said all of that and forgetting about mobile networks for a minute, there are now a lot of low Earth orbit satellites, and we are experimenting with some of them. So Indonesia has 17,000 islands, right? And there is a fair amount of shipping that happens as well, and we want to experiment with some of this stuff because there's an opportunity for us to actually enhance our, and I'm talking not from a voice perspective, but really from a data perspective, where there's an opportunity for us to enhance our offering to the industry. So stay tuned. There might be something exciting coming your way, and you will not have the downtime that you would normally have because things were down. So there's a plus and a minus in it somewhere, right?
Right. Thank you, Pak. Mudah-mudahan menjawab ya, Bu ya. Tapi kita di Indosat juga sekarang sedang implement private networks. Kita welcome kalau nanti dari industri mau coba trial. Ada dua model private networknya, ada yang totally isolated, bisa private LTE ataupun private 5G, dan juga modelnya hybrid nanti. Jadi once keluar area itu bisa connect ke jaringan nasional, tapi begitu masuk ke area jaringannya hanya di isolated, hanya untuk private network, private industry itu gitu ya, perusahaan itu aja. Okay, one more questions.
One more question. Okay, Bu Sri.
Bu Sri, silakan Bu.
Please introduce myself. My name is Sri Mulyani from G4S Security Services in Sourcing Vendor Management. So actually, it's simple questions. Yeah. Usually, I order for Kisco brand switch products. I I want to know beside this switch and as you present, what kind of another products and services related to our company security services. I think that's all.
Thank you, Sri.
So who want to take the answer? Pat?
Well, the answer is yes. Maybe we take it offline because I'm conscious of the time. And everyone's been very patient, but yes, Cisco does have a comprehensive range of security products. Yeah, it's a very extensive suite. I'm not sure if you remember the picture where we had the overall offering, but there was on the left-hand side was all the different security products that Cisco has. And it is quite a comprehensive range, you know, all the ways from firewalls all the way through to our Talos security consulting arm and the like. So yeah, we do have you know, and I'm sure our local Cisco account teams would love to have a chat with you about the opportunity.
Thank you, Brian. So Bu Sri, don't worry, Bu. You don't need to come to Brian's. So we are going to you later on. So we will provide for you. Okay, I think we already get all the questions from the floor. I think we can close this session. Kita tepuk tangan buat semua. Terima kasih. Report back to you, Bang. Silakan.
Oke, terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu. Sepertinya udah lewat 16 menit waktunya. Jadi thank you very much for your coming. Today there are two things that we need to clarify. First of all, there's a QR in front of us, so freely to scan this one in order to claim GoPay. And the second thing is we provide takjil behind of you. So by humble request that we will give to you, so please feel free to have it later on. So that's all. That's all from our side. Thank you very much for the speaker, for your hard work and for bothering you every time. So I think the mission that we want to build more awareness about the technology, a platform, connectivity, and new technology. And last but not least, Pak Sanjeev already mentioned earlier that this seminar will have it seriously. Later, we will let you know for the upcoming series with of course, with the new topic. And please stay tuned with us. So we will try to give you the best that we have. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mas Adit. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Good to meet you.
Yes,
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Harus lebih dekat, silakan. Lebih dekat kembali.
Cek 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Bisa. Oh, atau ini kita balikin. Ya. Silakan Bapak dan Ibu.
Thank you.
Mbak Uha, boleh diorganize untuk takjilnya? Cek Mbak Uha.
What? How many people?
I run the mobility, we provide a mobility sales. Wow, right. So I don't know, you know, Nassim, Mayor, well, I run the mobility sales, IoT, for public.
Cek Mbak Uha.